everybody, it's Krista here from Shape Your World Coaching. I hope you're having an amazing weekend, a happy week, and that all is going well for you, wherever you are. I am coming to you from a deserted office space that I found. You can see there's office buildings behind me. And there's this really nice bench and table. You're probably just seeing bits of a wood table, but yeah, that they obviously give for their employees so they can eat outside, which is nice. So I'm on a walk. I'm just sort of exploring and thought I will sit down for a little bit and make a little video. Some of this may also be shared in my upcoming Sunday sermon, and some of it is a continuation of stuff from my last Sunday sermon. I'll just show you really quick bits of my eye. I don't know if you can see how puffy that is compared to this. This is less than it was this morning when I woke up. It was worse. Well, I will say it was more pronounced. That's a better way to put it. And basically, last January, so a year ago last January, not January this year, but a year ago, there was a lot going on for me, and the same thing that's on this eye was on that eye. Members of my family who I saw the Christmas just before that will be able to share with you that they saw it. And there are photos out there where you can see it, but it's on that eye. And the interesting thing that happened was I realized and I figured out that it was my body not talking to me when this was going on. And I received energy healing. I went to regular GP doctor first, and they prescribed medicine. And while I was waiting to be able to get the medicine, I was offered a session with my very, very dear friend Lisa, and she did energy healing, the type that she does. And one of the things, my body and soul, because I do energy work, she also does energy work, but in a different way. And anyway, so during the session, my body and soul let her and I know that as part of the treatment, it needed me to look in the mirror. I think it was for 3 minutes. I think it was for 3 minutes for 3 days. And really, really funny. There was something going on with my phone. I thought I had set the timer, and it didn't work out, but whatever. And so the very first day I ended up actually doing this exercise for 30 minutes. I realized once I thought, this has been going on a little bit. Let me look at my phone. And yeah, it had been 30 minutes, not 3. But it felt like maybe 10 at the most to me. That's how incredible this stuff can be. And this eye completely healed up. I also made a few life changes then. Went from, I dealt with a situation that had been lingering, and from that came loads of other life choices, such as moving out of the flat I had lived in for the previous, I think, 3.5 years. From that, going on what I'm on now, which is this traveling journey, mainly by house and pet sitting. It's kind of mixing it up at the moment, but mostly house and pet sitting. And at the moment, I'm in Southwest France. From here, excuse me, I'm going to be going to Spain. And it's amazing how there's so many parallels that can be happening when we have something like that come up. So for me, with my eyes having this redness. What happened with that eye is there were things that I wasn't looking at, things I had not up till then, up until I received the energy healing and support, that I hadn't been dealing with and I hadn't been looking at. As soon as I did, along with the energy treatment and keeping with it, the eye cleared up completely. This eye started, I actually can pinpoint when it started, and it was right around when I was still in Brussels, and this is like 2 weeks ago, and there was an experience I had where essentially someone paid me a compliment. I spoke about this in last week's Sunday sermon a bit, and there was someone who paid me a compliment very, very directly. I was not expecting it at all, and his directness and just very matter-of-factness about, I think you're a great person, it really freaked out a very beautiful, deep part of me, because I wasn't prepared for it, because I didn't know what to do with it. Those deeper parts of me didn't know what to do with that compliment, how to handle it. It felt uncomfortable. So it was a friend of a friend of a friend who I was staying with, and he paid me this compliment, and all of my wheels started going. He was a perfect gentleman, but there was a moment, space of maybe like 30 seconds, where his compliment, if I had wanted it to, could have gone further. I didn't want it to. And so I made a joke about it to kind of get myself out of the situation gracefully, I thought, and I think I did ultimately. He was very, very nice, and eventually I shifted the conversation and went to bed a little bit after that. Went to sleep in a separate room, but it was interesting because that's around when this started. And what I'm realizing is that though the situations and my life circumstances have changed, the base is the same. There's something that my eye has been screaming at me, pay attention to, lady. Look at me. I'm going to make it really obvious so you can't ignore this. You got to deal. Look. And so I've known that needed to be looked at, and I've been diving into it, in little ways, diving into the layers. And last night I did more comprehensive diving into my Akashic records and looking at specifically the first and most significant lifetimes where I received that sort of attention, and it scared some sort of part of me. Because that's what you do when you have these triggers, when there's something you need to look at. You get to the core. You ask to be taken to the core and the root and the heart of the matter. That is something I just happen to be really good at, and I have been from the time I started doing my coaching training, quite a few years ago, and it's something I've always actually been good at. It's not me being boastful. It's just I tend to be good at that sort of stuff, and I can. I've gotten to the point where within a very few seconds, 3 to 5, I know immediately the direction we need to go in and what is very likely at the heart of the matter. My success rate is probably 70%, 68%. I'm hearing 70%, 70 to 75. It's growing all the time because it's like a muscle, like any else. The more you use it, the better you get at it. So anyway, but yeah, so I've always been good at that. And at the same time, I've always had a really, really strong connection with my body. My body will talk to me and speak to me when things aren't right. Hello. And it's been like that since I was a baby, actually, when I think about it. with the physical symptoms and illnesses and things I had when I was really little. It was a part of my body saying, something's not right, someone take care of me, pay attention to me. And so that aspect, because sickness doesn't ultimately serve me, so part of what I'm continuing, and I'm getting deeper and deeper with it, is helping the parts of me to get my attention, but also for me to take action on it sooner. Because it's not necessarily bad to have these physical symptoms come up. That's not necessarily bad. I just, I don't want to end up having to go to the doctors or anything like that. That's not so good. And there can also be, if I feel like I want to, I can help those deeper parts of me to get me to pay attention in different ways. That's okay too. But anyway, back to the point. So this I knew that it was that situation a couple of weeks ago that happened, that was at the base of it. And a part of me that didn't know what to do with that level of love, affection, kindness, noticing me, seeing me, because it wasn't, it takes me back, because that's the first time someone has been that direct, but complimenting me on my intellect and my emotional capacity and my deepness, my self-awareness. So it's interesting, and it's a different type of love that part of me didn't know what to do with and was afraid of what possibly could happen. And so went a little bit in, come inside mode, and restriction is what took place internally. There's all this tensing up. Well, my body, once again, is giving me signals. You need to look at this, because ultimately holding on to that and that type of fear doesn't benefit me. It doesn't help me personally, as a soul, as an individual, as a person. It doesn't help me to be able to help others on their paths, because if I am in restriction mode, how the heck is anyone going to see me if I'm so worried about people seeing me, right? How the heck am I going to be able to help people and to reach out to people if I'm so afraid of receiving their attention, their noticing, and ultimately their love that will come in the form of kindness, of signing up with me for whatever I offer as services, and through money exchange, because that's another form of love, right? So my eye was like, pay attention, lady, pay attention. And so once again, I've been diving into it, and yesterday was taken from where I was looking after someone I've home and pet sat for before. I was at their home taking care of the dogs while the husband was away and so forth. And yesterday he dropped me off along with another friend of a friend who was going to the airport to a hotel that's much more near where I'm going to be flying than where he was. It's like an hour, almost 2-hour journey, car ride. So it makes more sense for me to be here. But also what happened with me being here is that I have this space to myself. I'm alone. I don't have really any other responsibilities except for myself. Making posts, checking in with my Facebook group. There's a group meditation I'm going to be leading this evening. It's a free monthly meditation that I do. I felt guided to do it by Source and my spirit team, where we send love back to heal the world. And, if I'm not looking at fully a piece of myself has been afraid of receiving love, how am I going to be able to lead this meditation, which is all about sending love, right? And me being the conduit to help other people, conduit for Source and universal love, so that we can all connect with it and send that love out to the world. It all starts within. It all starts with us. All of this stuff. And so last night, I knew you know, it's my first night in this place, and after I got settled, I ordered some food for dinner, and I've been watching a movie, and it was around bedtime, and I knew I had this feeling again. My inner self is really good at keeping me on task. And it was like, you haven't looked at this yet. And so I dove further into my Akashic records. I asked for the first and most significant lifetime where that type of attention occurred and I didn't know what to do with it, or it worried or scared some part of me. And the tears came. I started crying. It was a lot. And there are a couple jumbles here and there because it's more than one lifetime, as is really common, especially when it's something that deep. It's actually a little bit rare to be something that we've only experienced in one lifetime. So it's more than one lifetime. And yeah, there were a lot of tears. And then there were aspects where I realized that there was a part of me that wished for forgiveness, because it wasn't just things that I had experienced from others, but also things that my soul had chosen, or my mind had chosen, you know, to do against other people, to victimize others, to cut them off from love, or treat them badly, you know, to harm them, physically harm them in some cases. And or to be complicit. That's another way to put it, to be complicit in what was harm, physical and otherwise, to others. And that is really hard to look at. It's hard to admit to yourself. It's hard to see, because I'm getting to the point where not only do I have this intuitive inner knowing that I've always had from the time I was a little girl, but I'm starting to see things now as well. And it's tough, you know, it's tough. But ultimately, what I realized from what I did last evening, and then my dreams, where my subconscious was definitely processing a lot of this stuff. And then more energy work that I did this morning when I woke up, because I dove in further and more with it. What I've realized is that there were things I did in other guises, in other forms, so other bodies, that my soul did, that I did. And they weren't always great. There were things that happened to me that weren't always great. But ultimately, what it all leads up to, I'm going to move because it's raining, is, and it's beautiful. I'm going to walk in this later. And that's going to be really healing and beautiful too. But ultimately, what it all leads to is that those were experiences that I chose on some level to have for whatever reason. And it was something my soul, or I in those bodies, felt like I needed to experience or go through, as well as to go through the repercussions. What happens after the fact? And how do you deal with these things? How do you heal? How do you seek forgiveness from others? Will others forgive you? You know, because there's free will involved. Always. And will I forgive myself? That's the other question. And how do I accept that forgiveness? That's another question. And so this morning, I dove in again even further, and I did, along with the energy work, a really beautiful mirror exercise, because the gift of sight is something I've carried with me from other lifetimes. And there's a thing called scrying, where you look in the mirror and you can see things, and with that, I find to be really powerful for me. It intensifies the energy and the shifting and the healing that I personally feel as I do this energetic work. And as I looked at myself in my eyes, my face started shifting. It's the same eyes, but in different faces, and I saw other aspects of me, so my soul in different lifetimes. And I saw faces that I hadn't seen before. I've done this type of exercise for quite a, more than once, quite a lot, and not all the time, but some of the faces I've seen more than once, and this time there were faces I hadn't seen before, and I know it was going further, it was going deeper. And so I did a forgiveness exercise for my, asking for forgiveness for myself, because I heard, as I started, I asked again for forgiveness from others, and I heard they've already forgiven you. And that's not what's needed right now. I heard you need to forgive yourself, and I heard you need to see the beauty in you. Talk about beautiful, huh? And so it's amazing what can happen from that, because one, my eye is a heck of a lot better than it was. Two, I've been releasing this stored, pent-up energy that's been there for a effing long time. A really long time. An energy that I was holding on to. Pain, shame, self-hatred, self-disgust, self-blame, self-anger, sadness, depression, all of that. And I was holding on to it. And so releasing this is incredible. It's incredible. And also being able to understand more deeply what the heck has been going on, and that they were things, for whatever reasons I at those times decided I needed to go through, or I needed to experience, or it made sense to me then because of XXY. And these are lessons we can learn from all the time. And it's a beautiful opportunity when we do, because we realize we don't need to repeat this stuff, and we can let go of it, and it can free us for so much more. So now that I'm opening these deeper spaces within, and these beautiful deeper parts of me are experiencing this lightening and lessening, and that stored energy is being released. It allows for the space for light, for love to come in. And that's what it's all about anyway. We're each here to experience love in all of its aspects, all of its forms, and in whatever ways work for us personally. So I hope you've gotten something good from this. I felt very guided to share with you, and I'm thinking of all of you and sending you so much love too. And if there's a space or a place in your life you haven't been looking at, and in whatever way all the beautiful parts of you are trying to get your attention to it, to be brave and to look, I encourage you to do so. Even when we feel scared, it doesn't all have to be scary, because ultimately we can learn how to forgive ourselves. We can welcome that in. We can learn how to forgive others and welcome that in. We can learn how to accept love and give love, and do so beautifully as well. I'm thinking so much of all of you, and sending you all so much love. All the best. Bye.